What would you do if saving your boss from a dangerous situation completely changed your life? Marcus Chen thought he was just being a decent human being when he stopped three men from taking advantage of his intoxicated boss outside a corporate bar. But what happened the next morning? She didn't pretend it never happened. She didn't avoid eye contact in the hallway, no. What she did was something Marcus never saw coming, and it's a story that'll make you question everything you think you know about workplace relationships, power dynamics, and what happens when someone in authority shows you who they really are. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because the stories we share here will change how you see everyday situations. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Let me paint you a picture of Marcus Chen, 28 years old, single, software developer at Richardson Tech Solutions, a mid-sized company in downtown Seattle. Marcus was the kind of guy who kept his head down, did excellent work, and went home. No drama, no office politics, no brown-nosing the higher-ups. His boss? Victoria Richardson, 34, the VP of Technology, brilliant, demanding, intimidating as hell. She was the granddaughter of the company's founder, but don't let that fool you into thinking she rode on nepotism. Victoria had a master's in computer science from MIT and had turned their struggling tech division profitable within 2 years. She was respected, feared, and absolutely untouchable in the office hierarchy. Marcus had worked under her for 18 months. Their interactions? Strictly professional. She'd approve his code reviews with a curt nod. He'd present in meetings, she'd ask sharp questions, and that was it. They existed in separate universes that occasionally intersected in conference rooms. Here's what you need to understand. Marcus liked it that way. After a messy breakup 2 years prior, he'd become a bit of a lone wolf. Work was work, home was home, the boundaries were clear, and he preferred them that way. Now, let's talk about that Friday night in September. The night everything changed, Richardson Tech had just landed a massive contract with a Fortune 500 client. We're talking millions of dollars, 2 years of guaranteed work, and enough prestige to put the company on the map. The executives decided to celebrate at the Meridian, this upscale bar 3 blocks from the office. Marcus almost didn't go. He'd already changed into his jacket, ready to head home and spend Friday night doing what he did best. Absolutely nothing productive. But his work buddy, James, literally pulled him back. Dude, it's a company celebration. At least show your face for an hour, have one drink, network a little. Marcus reluctantly agreed. 1 hour, 1 drink. Then he'd ghost. The Meridian was packed with Richardson employees. The energy was electric. People were loosening ties, laughing louder than they ever did in the office, and the drinks were flowing courtesy of the company card. Marcus nursed a whiskey neat in the corner, checking his watch every 10 minutes. That's when he noticed Victoria. She was at the bar, surrounded by senior executives and department heads. But something was off. Victoria was always composed, always in control. Tonight? Her laugh was too loud, her movements less precise. She'd shed her usual armor of rigid professionalism, and Marcus could see she was several drinks past her limit. He watched as, one by one, her colleagues made their excuses and left. By 10 p.m., the crowd had thinned considerably. By 10:30, Victoria was alone at the bar, staring into an empty glass. Marcus debated, not my problem, right? She's a grown woman, a vice president. Surely she could handle herself. But something made him stay. Maybe it was basic human decency. Maybe it was the fact that he'd once been that person, alone and drunk after his breakup, and a stranger had helped him get home safely. Whatever the reason, Marcus stayed. At 11:15, Victoria finally stood up, swaying slightly as she reached for her purse. She headed toward the exit, and Marcus quietly settled his tab and followed at a respectful distance. Outside, the September air was crisp and cool. Victoria stood on the sidewalk, one hand against the building wall for balance, the other scrolling through her phone. Probably trying to call a ride. That's when they appeared. 3 men, mid-30s, business casual. They'd probably been at the same bar, celebrating their own Friday night victories. They spotted Victoria immediately. Hey there, beautiful. You look like you could use some company. Victoria looked up, her eyes unfocused. I'm fine, thank you. But they weren't taking no for an answer. One of them moved closer, his hand reaching for her arm. Come on, don't be like that. We're just being friendly. Let us give you a ride home. The second guy was already pulling out his phone. Yeah, we've got a car right here. Where do you live? We'll take you there. The third one moved to her other side, effectively boxing her in. You shouldn't be out here alone this late. It's not safe. Here's where it gets real. Marcus saw what was happening. He saw the predatory lean of their bodies. He saw how Victoria was trying to step back but couldn't because they'd positioned themselves to control her movement. He saw the classic setup of men who'd done this before. His heart was pounding. Marcus wasn't a fighter, he was 5'10", maybe 170 pounds on a good day. These guys were bigger, but this was his boss. This was a person in danger, and everything in his moral compass said he had to do something. So he did. "Victoria!" Marcus called out, walking toward them with his phone to his ear like he'd just wrapped up a call. "There you are! Sorry I took so long, the client wouldn't stop talking." He moved right into their circle with the confidence of someone who absolutely belonged there. "Ready to head out?" "The car's just around the corner." The first guy's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "Marcus Chen, her colleague." He extended his hand for a handshake that none of them took. "We were just wrapping up some celebration drinks. Thanks for keeping her company while I finished my call." Victoria, drunk as she was, recognized him. "Marcus?" "Yeah, boss. Come on, let's get you home. Your brother's been texting worried about you." That detail, mentioning a brother, was genius. It implied someone was expecting her. Someone would notice if she didn't arrive. The second guy wasn't backing down. "We were just offering her a ride." "We don't mind," Marcus smiled, but his voice was steel underneath. "I appreciate that, but I've got it covered. We work together. Company policy is buddy system on nights like this." He turned to Victoria, gently taking her elbow. "Come on, our ride's here." For a long moment, nobody moved. The tension was thick enough to cut. These guys were calculating whether it was worth causing a scene. Marcus was calculating how fast he could run if things went south, and Victoria was just trying to process what was happening through her alcohol-fogged brain. Then the third guy shrugged. "Whatever, man, just trying to help." They backed off, disappearing back into the meridian. Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Victoria looked at him, eyes slightly clearer. "Now, you just... Let's get you home safely, Ms. Richardson. Can you tell me your address?" What happened next was a logistical nightmare. Victoria was coherent enough to unlock her phone and show him her address in the Maps app, but too drunk to safely give him her keys. Marcus ended up ordering a rideshare, staying with her the entire ride to her downtown condo building, and then facing another dilemma. She couldn't find her keys in her purse. She was fumbling, frustrated, getting more upset by the second. "Do you have a doorman? Someone who can let you in?" "No, Victoria's eyes were welling up with tears. The alcohol was hitting the emotional stage. "My keys are in my office. I forgot them. I always forget things when I'm stressed. Why am I so stupid?" Marcus made a decision. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take you back to the office. We'll get your keys, and then we'll get you home properly. Sound good?" Another rideshare, another $15 out of his pocket. They arrived at the Richardson building, and Marcus used his keycard to get them in. The office was dark and empty, lit only by emergency lighting and the glow of the city through the windows. Victoria's office was on the executive floor. Marcus had been up there maybe 3 times in 18 months. He helped her to her desk, where she collapsed into her leather chair and immediately put her head down. "Keys," she mumbled, pointing vaguely at a drawer. Marcus found them. He also found her laptop was still on, open to what looked like a presentation for Monday's board meeting. Without thinking, he closed the laptop properly. He noticed her coffee mug from that morning, still half full and growing mold. He grabbed it to take to the break room sink. That's when Victoria spoke, her voice muffled by her arms. "Thank you. It's no problem, Ms. Richardson. No." She lifted her head, and even drunk, her eyes were surprisingly focused. "Those men, they weren't going to take me home. Were they?" Marcus chose his words carefully. "I don't know what their intentions were, but I'm glad I was there." Tears started sliding down her face. "I'm so stupid, I never drink like this, but today was. The contract was because. And I just wanted to feel." She couldn't finish the sentence. "Let's get you home. You can process this tomorrow, when you're feeling better," but Victoria grabbed his wrist. "Why did you help me? Everyone else left. You don't even like me." "I don't dislike you, Ms. Richardson, and you're a person who needed help. That's enough reason." She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you, Marcus. Really, getting her home after that was easier." She was more cooperative, more aware. Marcus made sure she got into her condo safely, checked that she had water and aspirin on her nightstand, and confirmed she could lock her door behind him. By the time he got back to his own apartment, it was 2 a.m. He collapsed into bed, wondering if Monday morning was going to be incredibly awkward. He had no idea. Saturday morning, Marcus woke up to 15 missed calls and 23 text messages. His heart dropped. What had happened? Was Victoria okay? Had something gone wrong after he left? But when he checked his phone, every single message and call was from Victoria's personal number. How did she even have his personal number? Right, company directory. The messages started professional and got progressively more insistent. "Marcus, this is Victoria Richardson. Please call me when you get this. Marcus, I need to speak with you. It's important. I'm serious, Marcus. Please call me back." If I don't hear from you in an hour, I'm coming to your apartment. Yes, I have your address from HR. Call me. Marcus's hands were shaking as he called her back. She answered on the first ring. Marcus! Thank God. Are you okay? Am I okay? Ms. Richardson, I'm fine. Are you okay? Can you meet me for coffee? There's a place called Roasted Grounds near your apartment. 30 minutes. Yes, sure. Good. See you there. She hung up before he could ask any more questions. Marcus showed up to Roasted Grounds in jeans and a hoodie, his hair still damp from the world's fastest shower. Victoria was already there, sitting at a corner table wearing casual clothes he'd never seen her in. Jeans, a simple sweater, her hair in a ponytail. She looked exhausted but sober and very, very serious. Sit, she said. Not a request. Marcus sat. Victoria slid a coffee across to him. She'd already ordered for him. Black coffee, 1 sugar. How did she know his order? I remember everything, she said, without preamble. Some people black out when they drink. I remember every single detail, no matter how much I wish I didn't. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. I remember those men, Victoria continued, her voice level but her hands trembling around her cup. I remember being scared. I remember not being able to think clearly enough to get myself out of this situation. And I remember you walking up like we'd planned to leave together all along. Ms. Richardson, stop, let me finish. She took a breath. I also remember crying in my office. I remember telling you things I would never normally say, and I remember you being nothing but respectful and kind when you had every reason to leave me to figure it out myself. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. This is a check for all your expenses last night, the rides, the time, everything. I calculated based on surge pricing, and I don't want your money, Ms. Richardson. It's not about want, it's about what's right. Then, with respect, I don't think it would be right for me to take money for helping someone who was in trouble. They stared at each other across the table. Something shifted in Victoria's expression. Why did you do it? She asked quietly. Tell me the truth. Was it because I'm your boss? Were you worried about your job if something happened to me? No, Marcus said immediately. I'd like to think I would have done the same thing for anyone in that situation. But you don't even like me. I never said that. You don't have to. I know I'm not easy to work for. I know people think I'm cold and demanding, and I think you're one of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with, Marcus interrupted. I think you hold yourself and others to incredibly high standards because you actually care about the work we do. I think you're intimidating because you're competent, not because you're mean. And I think last night you were a person who needed help. That's all that mattered. Victoria's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I need to tell you something. Those men last night? That wasn't the first time something like that has happened to me. And every other time, people either didn't notice or didn't care enough to intervene. Do you understand what you did? You potentially saved me from something very bad. The weight of that statement hung in the air. I need to know, Victoria said, leaning forward. Can I trust you? With what happened? With what you saw? I need to know you're not going to use this as leverage or gossip about it or... Ms. Richardson, I'm not going to tell anyone. That's your personal business and you deserve privacy. She nodded slowly. Okay. She took another breath. Now I need to tell you something else, and I need you to really hear me. What you did last night, that wasn't just being a decent person. That was courage, real courage, and that kind of character is rare. It's the kind of character I want in leadership positions in my department. Marcus blinked. What? There's a senior developer position opening up, team lead level. I was going to post it internally next week, but I'm offering it to you first. 30% salary increase, your own team, direct reports, and you'd be working closely with me on strategic initiatives. Miss Richardson, I don't think you should make career decisions based on... I'm not, she cut him off firmly. I've had my eye on you for 6 months. Your code is clean, your project completion rate is the highest in the department, and your peer reviews indicate you're someone people like working with. I was planning to offer you the position anyway. Last night just confirmed what I already knew about your character. Marcus felt like the world had tilted sideways. This is a lot to process. I know, you don't have to answer now. Think about it over the weekend. But Marcus? She looked him directly in the eye. I don't pretend things didn't happen. I don't sweep uncomfortable situations under the rug. What happened last night happened, and I'm not going to act like it didn't. I'm also not going to let it make things weird between us professionally unless you need it to be. I don't need it to be weird, Marcus said slowly, but I also don't want you to feel obligated to stop. I make my own decisions about my obligations, and I've decided that I owe you honesty, transparency, and a fair shot at opportunities you've earned. That's not obligation, that's integrity. They talked for another hour. Victoria explained the job responsibilities, the salary package, the growth potential, but more than that, they just talked about work philosophy, about their approaches to problems, about what they valued in teams and leaders, When Marcus finally left Roasted Grounds, his head was spinning, but there was something else too, a strange feeling he couldn't quite name. Respect? Admiration? Connection? Monday morning arrived with all the anxiety Marcus had been dreading. He decided to accept the position, but he was terrified of how things would change. Would people think he'd gotten the promotion because of Friday night? Would Victoria go back to her usual distant professional demeanor? He arrived at the office 15 minutes early, his stomach in knots. He'd barely sat down at his desk when his email pinged from Victoria Richardson to Marcus Chen, subject, Monday morning meeting, my office 9 a.m. will make the announcement. Official. VR. At 8:55, Marcus rode the elevator to the executive floor, his palms were sweating. The elevator doors opened, and there was Victoria, standing in the hallway like she'd been waiting for him. Morning, Marcus. Good morning, Ms. Richardson. She smiled slightly. In private, you can call me Victoria, but in professional settings, Ms. Richardson is still appropriate. They walked to her office together. She closed the door and gestured for him to sit. Before we do the official announcement, I need to address something directly, Victoria said, sitting across from him. There are going to be people who speculate about why you got this promotion. Office gossip is inevitable. I want you to be prepared for that, and I want you to know how I'm going to handle it. Okay, Marcus said cautiously. The truth is that your promotion has been in the works for weeks. I have documentation of your performance reviews, project successes, and peer feedback that justify this decision. If anyone questions it, they'll be pointed to that documentation. What happened Friday night is personal and private, and it will stay that way. Are we clear? Crystal clear. Good. Now, let's talk about your team. The official announcement went out at 10 a.m. Marcus Chen was being promoted to senior developer and team lead, effective immediately. He'd be managing a team of 5 developers and taking on the Richardson Banking App project, the company's most high-profile client. The reactions were mixed. Some colleagues congratulated him genuinely. Others gave him suspicious looks. James pulled him aside at lunch. Dude, what happened? You go from wanting to ghost the party Friday night to being promoted by Monday morning? Marcus kept it vague. Right place, right time, I guess. She said she'd been considering me for a while. Lucky bastard, James said, but he was smiling. You deserve it, though. Your code is better than half the senior devs we have. But not everyone was happy. Sarah Winters, a developer who'd been with the company 5 years, cornered Marcus in the break room Wednesday afternoon. So you and Victoria, huh? She said, her tone dripping with insinuation. Excuse me? Come on, we all know something happened. At that celebration. You two disappeared around the same time. Now suddenly you're her golden boy. Marcus felt his temper rise. Sarah, I got this position because of my work performance. If you have a problem with that, take it up with HR. I'm just saying, it looks suspicious. Then maybe you should consider that things aren't always what they look like. He walked away before he said something he'd regret, but the encounter left him rattled. This was exactly what he'd been afraid of. That evening, he got a text from Victoria. I heard about Sarah. Don't let it get to you. People who tear others down do it because they're insecure about their own value. You earned this position. 5. How did she hear about it already? Then Marcus remembered. Victoria had eyes and ears everywhere in this company. Of course she knew. Over the next 2 weeks, something interesting happened. Victoria's management style, which Marcus had only experienced from a distance before, became clear up close. She was demanding, yes. She expected excellence. But she was also fair, supportive, and genuinely invested in her team's growth. In their one-on-one meetings, she asked about his career goals, his challenges, what resources he needed to succeed. She gave detailed, actionable feedback. She shielded him from bullshit corporate politics and let him focus on doing good work. And she never once brought up that Friday night. But Marcus thought about it. He thought about how vulnerable she'd been, how scared. He thought about the fact that she could have pretended it never happened, could have kept him at arm's length to avoid any awkwardness. Instead, she'd chosen honesty and transparency. 1 month into his new position, Marcus's team successfully launched the first phase of the Richardson Banking App. It was a massive win. Victoria called a department meeting to celebrate. This is what happens when you have the right people in the right positions, she announced to the entire tech department. Marcus and his team delivered excellence because they have the skills, the drive, and the integrity to do the work right. This is the standard I expect from all of you. After the meeting, she caught Marcus in the hallway. Celebration drinks tonight, she asked. Then she immediately winced. Sorry, poor choice of words given. Given that the last celebration drinks turned into a whole thing? Marcus finished with a slight smile. Yeah, that... I'll come for 1 drink, Marcus said, but I'm staying sober to make sure my boss gets home safe this time. Victoria laughed, a real genuine laugh he'd never heard from her before. I appreciate that, but I think I'll also be staying sober. Learned my lesson about celebrating too hard. The team went to the Meridian again. But this time, Marcus wasn't hiding in the corner counting down the minutes until he could leave. He was part of the team, laughing and celebrating their success. And Victoria? She nursed a single glass of wine the entire night and left at a reasonable hour with a clear head. As Marcus watched her leave, James elbowed him. She's different around you, you know. What do you mean? Victoria, she's always professional, but with you? There's something else. Like she trusts you in a way she doesn't trust other people. Marcus thought about that. Trust. That's what Friday night had been about. Victoria hadn't pretended to forget because she trusted him with the truth, and in return he'd proven that trust was warranted. 3 months after that night, Marcus was working late on a Thursday. The office was nearly empty. He was deep in code when Victoria appeared at his desk. Still here? She asked. Could ask you the same thing. Fair point. She pulled up a chair. Can I talk to you about something? Off the record? Of course. Victoria was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Do you remember asking me why I drank so much that night? You said it was because of the contract celebration. That wasn't the whole truth. She looked down at her hands. That day, I'd gotten a call from my mother. She told me that my father's in the hospital. Early onset Alzheimer's. He's declining faster than expected. Ms. Richardson, I'm so sorry. Victoria, when we're alone, it's Victoria. She took a breath. My father founded this company. He built it from nothing, and now he can't remember my name half the time. The contract we celebrated. He would have been so proud, but when I called to tell him, he thought I was my mother. He didn't know who I was. Tears were streaming down her face now, and Marcus did something he never would have done 3 months ago. He reached out and took her hand. So I went to that celebration, Victoria continued, and I drank to forget, to not feel, and I put myself in danger because I was too wrapped up in my own pain to be careful. And then you showed up and saved me from my own stupidity. You're not stupid, you were hurting. That's what my therapist says. She wiped her eyes. I started seeing someone after that night. I realized I was using work to avoid dealing with my grief, and alcohol to avoid dealing with everything else. That's not healthy. That's not who I want to be. That takes courage, to recognize you need help and actually get it. Victoria looked at him. You know what else takes courage? Risking yourself to help someone you barely know. You didn't know what those men would do if you confronted them. You didn't know if I'd even appreciate your help or if I'd be angry you interfered. You just did the right thing because it was right. Anyone would have. No, they wouldn't. I've been in bad situations before, Marcus. I've been the drunk woman alone at the bar. People walked past me, people ignored me, people assumed I deserved whatever happened because I should have known better. You didn't do any of that. You saw a person in trouble. And you helped. What are you trying to tell me, Victoria? She squeezed his hand. I'm trying to tell you thank you. Really, truly thank you. Not just for that night, but for everything since... For being trustworthy, for being honorable, for not making things weird or using what you know as leverage, for just being a good person. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. Because good people deserve to be recognized. And you deserve to know that helping me that night, you didn't just save me from those men, you reminded me that there are still decent people in the world. That vulnerability doesn't always lead to being hurt, that sometimes when you fall, someone will actually help you up instead of stepping over you. Marcus felt his throat tighten. You've helped me too, you know. This opportunity, this position, the trust you've shown me, that means something. You earned it, every bit of it. Victoria stood up, still holding his hand. I need you to know something else. I don't make friends easily. The position I'm in, the family I come from, people always want something from me. But I think you might actually be my friend. Is that weird? Can a boss and an employee be friends? I think, Marcus said carefully, that two people who respect each other and have been through something significant together can be whatever they decide to be. Labels don't really matter. Victoria smiled. That's a very diplomatic answer. I'm learning from the best. They stood there for a moment, the empty office around them, the city lights glowing through the windows. I should let you get back to work, Victoria said. But Marcus? If you ever need anything at all, my door is always open. Not as your boss, as someone who owes you more than I can ever repay. You don't owe me anything, I disagree, but I respect that you see it that way. She headed toward the door, then turned back. One more thing. Next month there's a gala for the company's 40th anniversary. I need to bring someone, and the thought of bringing some random date and making small talk all night sounds awful. Would you consider coming, as my friend? Is that appropriate? Marcus asked, genuinely uncertain. I'm bringing a colleague and friend to a company event. I think that's perfectly appropriate, but I understand if you're not comfortable with... I'll come, Marcus interrupted. But I'm warning you, I'm terrible at small talk. Good. So am I. We can be terrible at it together. So here's what happened. After that gala, Marcus and Victoria became genuine friends. Not in a romantic way, in case you're wondering, but in a way that mattered more. They became people who trusted each other, supported each other, and showed up for each other. Victoria's father passed away 6 months later. Marcus was there at the funeral, not as an employee, but as a friend. When Victoria broke down crying at the reception, it was Marcus who sat with her in a quiet corner until she could breathe again. When Marcus's younger sister got into MIT 2 years later and he couldn't afford to help with tuition, Victoria quietly set up a company scholarship that his sister qualified for. She never told him it was her doing. He found out 3 years later by accident. Marcus is now the director of engineering at Richardson Tech. Victoria is the CEO after her father's passing. They still have their weekly one-on-ones, though now they're less about code reviews and more about strategic vision and company direction. And sometimes, when they're working late and the office is empty, they talk about that night, about how one moment of decency changed the trajectory of both their lives. Because here's the thing about doing the right thing. You never know how much it matters. You never know who you're saving or what ripple effects your actions will have. Marcus didn't save Victoria's life that night to get a promotion or make a powerful friend. He did it because she was a human being in trouble and he had the power to help. And Victoria didn't pretend to forget because she understood something important. Shame lives in silence. Pretending that night never happened would have meant letting shame win. Instead, she chose honesty, transparency, and gratitude. She chose to acknowledge what happened and let it be a foundation for something better. That's the lesson here. When something significant happens, when someone helps you or you help someone else, don't pretend it away. Don't minimize it. Don't let societal expectations of professionalism erase genuine human connection. Acknowledge it. Honor it. Let it mean something. Because the best relationships in life, whether they're friendships, partnerships, or something else entirely, are built on moments when someone sees you at your worst and chooses kindness anyway. Marcus saw Victoria at her most vulnerable, and he chose kindness. Victoria saw Marcus's character, and she chose to honor it, and both of them are better for it. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about everyday people doing extraordinary things. Drop a comment below about a time someone helped you when you needed it most, or a time you chose to help someone even when it was uncomfortable. Remember, the world doesn't need more people pretending everything is fine. It needs more people who show up, who help, and who have the courage to acknowledge when something matters. Be that person. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.